Coming up on iOS today, Rosemary Orchard and I share our favorite widgets. These are the widgets we have on our iPads, iPhones, the home screens. It's all that glanceable goodness. Plus, we show you our app caps. Yes, our app picks of the week. I've got something for HomeKit, and Rose, as usual, chooses something that fits the theme. It's widgets. Plus, so much more. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by Raycon. Raycon's offering 15% off all their products for listeners, and here's what you've got to do to get it. Just go to buyraycon.com/iOS. And by SanDisk's Data Storage Solutions. Check out their iExpand Flash Drive Lux today and get 15% off your first order of the featured SanDisk products at sandisk.com/iOS. And by Babbel. Babbel has made learning new languages fun and easy with bite-sized lessons that you'll actually use in the real world. Purchase a 3-month Babbel subscription and get an additional 3 months free. Go to babbel.com and use promo code iOS today. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Hello and welcome to, I almost did the echo that I do sometimes on Smart Tech Today. Hello and welcome to iOS Today, the show where we talk about all things iOS, iPadOS, tvOS, watchOS, HomePod OS, plus all the other OSs that exist in Apple's ecosystem. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent, he, him, and who are you?
I'm Rosemary Orchard, she/her.
Nice. Hello. And how you doing today, Rosemary?
Oh, I'm doing good. We have a very fun show lined up, and I love the fact that my phone just switched over to dark mode because guess what? We're in daylight savings now. So yeah, it's
okay.
It's a good time to have fun.
That's a thing for you folks too. I thought that was just in the US.
No, pretty much everywhere in the world does daylight savings. We just do it a couple of weeks later from you. So I'm actually an hour closer to you right now, but I'm pretending to be on American time because it's easier.
I feel like, as the French would say, a stupid American right now because I thought that was just a US thing and I feel so dumb about that. Interesting. Wow. Okay. So we're not the only backwards country when it comes to making times change for ridiculous antiquated reasons. We today, it was funny, we will communicate with one another to kind of figure out what the show topic is going to be. And I was perusing through the App Store to look for some inspiration. Sometimes I'll look at the stories there that the App Store editors put together. And when I was looking, I didn't end up finding anything. And so I went back to my home screen and looked at my calendar right quick just to see sort of what was coming up. And I thought, oh, I haven't talked to Rosemary about widgets. Leo and I have talked in the past about, I think we did a widget episode at one point, but you and I had not talked about widgets. And so I thought it would be a great idea to talk about our favorite widgets. And it turned out that you were already going to be talking about a widget for this episode of iOS Today. So we continue to be on that same level. And I love that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what your app cap is today because last week was an amazing coincidence for anybody who missed that. There was mustard, there were hot dogs, and there were some amazing app picks, of course. This week's going to be good fun.
Yeah, you know what? It'll be fun to try and make up some way for them to be related, even if they are not. I know yours involves glitter and mine does not involve glitter, but we'll see what happens. But let's get into the show. Let's talk about some of our favorite widgets for iOS. But first, we should explain for anyone who might not know or who is kind of new to the game of widgets, Apple did not originally offer a sort of widget technology, a widget feature on its devices, which is something that's been on Android for quite a while. It's the idea that instead of just having apps on your home screen, little tiles that you tap on to launch apps, that you would have bits of information, glanceable information, if you will, to be able to see what's going on not just on your phone, but elsewhere, as is the case with Calendar and some of the other widgets, to be updated more frequently and to give you glanceable information that you don't have to launch into an app to actually see. When Apple launched that, I know a lot of us were pretty pumped about this technology, and widgets continue to get better as developers realize what does and does not work for widgets, and kind of what makes good widgets and makes poor widgets. Now, Rosemary, before we actually talk about your first widget, perhaps you could show our listeners how you go about editing, adding, subtracting, and organizing widgets on your iPhone.
Well, I've given people a little sneak preview right here on my phone of some of the things I'll be including. But the easiest way to add a widget to your home screen is to tap and hold somewhere on your screen until you get this sort of jiggle effect. And then you can tap on the plus in the top left straight away, or you can swipe over and look for a nice, clean, empty page first. Because if you do that, then it's not going to rearrange everything on your existing page. And I don't want to do that for a very good reason that you'll see at the end of the show. So you tap on your plus, and then you've got some example widgets here. So it's got some maps. It's looking at Florida because I was trying to figure out exactly where the John F. Kennedy Space Center was for a Carrot mission earlier today. And it's got some photos that I've taken as an example widget. Fitness, kittens, that's from Apollo, a great Reddit app. Airmail, Siri suggestions, which is a great widget, which if we get time, maybe we can talk about it later. And then it goes through, my third-party apps that I've got installed and also music, and shows me some examples. Now, if you're looking for a widget for a specific app, so say, for example, Bear, then you can scroll down and look for that and tap on that application and swipe through to see what kind of different widgets are available to you there. Or you could say go for deliveries. And yes, I've got a new iPhone case coming today because I dropped mine and chipped my iPhone case, not my phone, fortunately. And so you can see those. And so you go through and you pick something. So I'll select this carrot one. And then you just tap add. And then it jumps here onto your phone screen. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add a fitness one as well. And now you can see that I've got two widgets next to each other. But if I don't want to use up all the space on my home screen for widgets, which, understandable, you might not want to do that. If you've got two widgets of the same size, they're like Lego. You can pick one up and drag it on top of another one and then let it go. And then if you tap on that, then you can rearrange them and say what order they should go in. That's more useful if you've got, say, 3 or more widgets. And you can also enable this smart rotate, which is on by default. And essentially, your iPhone will try to learn what you like to see at different times of day, and then it will automatically switch between them. And you can swipe up and down on them to get between them at any point, which, of course, means that you can see whatever you like. And if you're looking at one, you're there going, oh, that's the weather. Then you can tap on it and get a little bit more information. And apparently, there may be a new Captain America coming. I don't know. Carrot always seems to know, but I'll let you get to that one later. So that's how you add a widget.
And the process is all part of that, that jiggle mode. It's all part of that, a technology, or not a technology, but a paradigm, I guess, that we're used to, which was handy, I think, with setting that up. So we can have multiple screens of widgets, multiple stacks of widgets, and do things like shuffling between them in a smart way or manually. And I like those different features of being able to set things up exactly how I want them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. And I find that it's really useful to have stacks of information. So I frequently have sort of calendar and my tasks. I personally use OmniFocus for that. And also the weather and drafts in one stack, because that allows me to quickly jump between the things that are realistically controlling what I'm doing in a day. And so stacks are definitely one of my favorite features of widgets. But of course, it's not just about the widgets. It's about what you put in that stack. And that's what we're going to really look at here.
Exactly. So why don't you tell us about your first favorite widget, or at least one of the widgets that made it to the list today?
Well, I recently have been realizing I've been waking up with a bit of a headache in the morning. And I realized the problem with this is not that I'm waking up with a headache and that I've got something wrong with me. It's that I'm not drinking enough water. And so I downloaded an oldie but a goodie, a favorite of mine, WaterMinder, which is available in the App Store. It's $5. And it comes with a whole series of widgets that you can install. So I've got one here in the top left, and I'm just going to enter jiggle mode again and swap to the next page and go down and show you the different widgets available in WaterMinder. So there's different size widgets. There's a small widget, a medium widget, and a large widget, but there's multiples of each one. So I really like the ones with these icons on, because those will let me quickly add a particular drink, and I've saved these as favorites in WaterMinder. But I can see different things, like see how much I should be, drinking and how much percentage is left, as well as those. So I've just drunk 250 milliliters of water. So I can actually tap that, and it jumps straight into WaterMinder, and it increases the level here, and it shows me that I'm at 55%. But this widget's really great because earlier I looked at my phone and it said, hey, you've not had anything to drink in 3 hours. You should have something to drink. And it was this orange warning on this otherwise very calming white and blue icon. And I thought, oh, that's a really good point. I haven't had anything to drink in 3 hours. Thank you, WaterMinder. You're saving me here. And so, I had a glass of water, and funnily enough, it wasn't that I wasn't feeling good, but I started feeling even better after that, because it turns out us humans need to drink. And it just Coca-Cola and chocolate milk apparently don't do it for us. So this is why I like WaterMinder. It's very simple. It doesn't try to do anything super complex or super crazy. It just has a whole bunch of different widgets. It's also got a whole bunch of Apple Watch complications for people who've got an Apple Watch. And I know Knox in our chat room just said that he has just got an Apple Watch, so he might be interested in that. But it works really well to show you, how much you should be drinking and how much you have drunk, and give you those warnings at a quick glance. And I love the fact that they've integrated these targets so that I can tap on it and say, I've drunk 250 milliliters of water, and just tap it and be done. And I've put that on the right so that I'm most inclined to drink that, because I'm right-handed and I usually use my right thumb to reach across my phone to tap that. So that makes it a lot easier for me.
Yeah, that is pretty handy. I like the shortcuts, because at first we thought that many of us who kind of were looking at this as early on as possible were concerned that widgets would not be interactive at all, that they would only be there to kind of provide information, and that you wouldn't be able to do much with them specifically. But it turned out that there are some kind of built-in touch targets and things like that that let you access ways to do things within the app. So then it can quickly launch the app. It can tell where you tapped, and then use that information to do an action like you were able to do with logging water. That I think is fantastic. And the fact that, again, it's right there on your home screen is so nice. Yeah. It's really so nice. Now, this app it continues to haunt me. Because everybody just talks about how much they love it and how much they use it. And then I think, oh no, FOMO kicks in. What am I missing out on? Why don't I understand this app? And then somebody talks about it and I get excited about it and I download it, or I open it again and I'm trying to use it. But I know you love drafts, and I am happy that there's a widget for you. So tell me what magic you can work with the drafts widget.
Well, if I pop open my iPhone here, then in the top right for anybody on the video, you can see it says sample note here. Hey, for everyone watching the video. And that is one of my drafts in Drafts. And that's one of the many ways that I use Drafts as a widget. Basically, this is a sticky note on my iPhone screen. And I love having sticky notes because I leave sticky notes for myself around everywhere. I've got a huge stack of them here on my desk in multiple colors. And I've actually got multiple stacks, so let's not look at that too much because my desk is a bit messy right now. But I love the fact that I can have digital stacks because, of course, the problem with physical Post-it notes is they eventually lose their stick and then they go somewhere and you don't really know what they were attached to. Whereas by using this, well, I have a physical sticky note that I can tap on at any point and boom, I'm straight in that sticky note and I can go ahead and edit it. And that is one of the reasons why I love this. So I'm just going to go into the tap and hold mode and open a new widget for Drafts. Whoops, I went straight past it there. I was still looking for WaterMinder. So Drafts has several kinds of widgets. So they've got small, medium, and large, as pretty much everything that we're covering here today does. And you can do things like just jump straight to the inbox, or there's a 8-button widget, which will allow you to, say, jump to your inbox, create a new draft with dictation, jump straight into search, or jump into your workspaces. But what I really love are the list options, where you can specify a list of drafts from a configured workspace. So I'm going to add a big widget, and here you can see that it's just defaulted to my inbox. But when I tap on a widget in jiggle mode, then I can customize the settings of that individual widget. So in this particular case, I can specify, okay, that I am looking for my screencast online shows, for example, and what folder I want to see, and what theme I should use. My system theme, which is automatically switching between light and dark, light mode or dark mode. And then when I do that, it will pop that up, and it's got that tint. So it's gone slightly pink because that particular workspace actually has a red icon. So it's taken that tint, but it's trying not to make it too difficult to see. And then from here, I can tap on any individual one and just jump straight to that draft in that line. And I love this because I often use drafts as kind of a semi-inbox / to-do list / text editor, where I can go through and I can see, okay, so I've got all of these that I need to go through and process. So this one down here is probably actually the one I'm going to work on next. Ignore the fact that it's at the bottom. And it allows me to see, okay, and now I just need to jump straight to that one. I need to fill that one out and then, do the right thing with the content. But there are so many different drafts widgets that it makes it really easy for me to just jump into drafts at any time. And these basically Post-it note versions of drafts are great for long-term drafts. So I have some things which are just, my parents have tech problems. Okay. And I'm sure if you are listening to or watching this show, then you deal with your family and your friends' tech problems as well. And so I have one here, which is just the next time that I'm on a Skype call or a Zoom call with this person, also help them fix this thing. So one of the things recently was my grandmother's phone was ringing too loudly. Why this ended up with me, because it's her landline, not even her iPhone, I don't know. But I love the fact that I've got it there because it allows me to easily jump straight into that particular sticky note at any time. And then I can just get straight on with adding to it. And this works really well for me because the information is always there. And especially if it's in a stack of things, then I can just say, oh, right, okay, like here's the stack of super important things that I need to deal with. There's that one that I need. Okay, and I just grab it and go. So I love the fact that I can easily, basically do digital Post-it notes. And I really hope at some point we get full screen of widgets on the iPad and the iPad Pro, because I definitely get a 12.9 inch and just stick widgets all over that screen, especially these kinds of Post-its.
I really would love to have full screen widgets on iPad. That's, I think a lot of us who use widgets regularly, that's a fingers crossed option for us. Because there's so much screen. And I think Apple has always been kind of criticized for not taking advantage of that much screen. And finally, you were able to add more apps to the home screen rather than these like very spaced out app tiles that were there before. And so, yeah, that would be the logical next step to make that iPad home screen even better. Oh, that would be wonderful. Now, this last one is a pretty popular, or at least at once was incredibly well known. It had kind of become meme level or viral, whichever you want to say, due to
I think it
TikTok.
went viral on TikTok.
Yes, exactly. TikTok. And this one is for folks who are looking to customize their iPhone home screen or home screens, plural, in all sorts of ways with all sorts of different fonts and templates and everything else. So, Rosemary, tell us about one of the most popular widgets or widget applications that exists.
Well, the one I'm going to talk about for anybody who hasn't guessed it is Widgetsmith. Now, Widgetsmith is a free app to download with an optional in-app purchase of, I think it's $1.99 a month. And it allows you to create widgets. So it's not about just put this widget from this app here. It's about creating widgets. So this calendar that I've got here that says Friday, March 19th, record iOS today, 18 to 20. That's 24-hour time, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. is a widget. And when I tap on it, it opens Widgetsmith. And as you can see, I've done some playing around in here to create widgets. And so what you do, I'm going to go ahead and I think I'll create a medium widget right here. So first of all, Widgetsmith isn't just a widget and your widget always looks like this. You can actually add timed widgets, which means that say between, 6 p.m. and 8 a.m., you have one kind of widget show, and then, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., you have another kind of widget. So you have a work widget versus a personal widget, and it's the same widget. So it only occupies one spot and one slot, but it, shows different information. But then you can go ahead and select different things. Now, personally, for people who are there going, oh, the time, I could have the time in really big numbers, I would just add a note of caution in that Apple updates widgets when they feel like they have the battery level to do so and it's worth doing, which means sometimes widgets update super quickly. Sometimes they don't. So you might find things like the time end up drifting off. And that's the case in any widget application. That's not Widgetsmith's fault. So fuzzy time is great for things like that. And so are things like the sun path. But there are lots of options. So you can do like date options. I love those. You can select photos and overlay them with things like the current date. So you've got utility combined with something fun. And there's step counting built in. You've got health and activity options. You've even got weather options, which are great. And then you've got, upcoming events combined with a calendar and things like that, or just pulling out your reminders. Or if you live near the beach, a tide graph that could be really useful so that you know when it's safe to go for a walk on the beach. And there's also things like a star field. But I'm just going to go back up and I'm going to select the custom text, which is your text here. And then the next section, and this is one of the reasons why I really love this, is you can select a theme. Okay, so there's seasonal ones, like there's a couple of heart ones and some snow ones for Valentine's Day and Christmas and winter, I presume. And then there's some general ones where you can just, have candy, which is bright pink with bright green text on it. I'm not sure I would personally pick that one, but I'm sure somebody loves it. There's daring, which is gray with white text on. And there's lights and leaves and neon and night vision and pumpkins and scrapbook. And one of my favorites, 6 colors, which is the original 6 colors of the Apple logo back when it was really, colorful. But you can also customize a theme. And you can specify, as particular text. So if you want a particular text, like you could use noteworthy or chalk duster or typewriter, copperplate, things like that. You can specify a tint color. So that's the color that's applied to anything that can change. Like, this purple. I love purple. You can change a background color. So I can hopefully select this pastel purple, which should, if I do this right, match my background. And you can also choose an artwork color. Now, this one doesn't really apply quite so much here because I'm using the 6 colors theme. But you could change other things as well, and you can change the actual artwork. And I'll just tap save there. And now I just need to insert some text. So I'm just going to put hello iOS today. Oops. And autocorrect did not quite help me there. I'll just rename this one to hello and tap save. So I've created the widget here. Now I will pop into edit mode, remove that drafts widget, and then scroll down to find Widgetsmith. Now, there are only 3 kinds of widgets that you can add here. So you select whichever size it is that you've created. That was a medium one. And then it should automatically jump to the latest one that you have created. Now, as you can see, this pastel purple doesn't quite match my background, but if we look at that rainbow, that does indeed match the rainbow of my background. And this can be really lovely for again, things like sticky notes that you want, just like little, personal motivational things, but also things like showing photos of your loved ones, or, your pets, who are hopefully also your loved ones, or your calendar, or reminders, or the weather. And I actually have a large widget, which I'm just going to go ahead and add right here. And that shows me, so I've got this calendar option, but I believe it was large 4. Nope. This is my problem. I don't actually rename all of these properly. There we go. Where I can actually see all of the time zones of the people I work with. So Mikah, you are actually in under David's time zone, because I was working with David before I was working with you. So I should probably rename that to West Coast or something like that. But this shows me a calendar, so I know where I am in the month. And it also shows me times, for myself and also for other people who I work with. So if I want to message somebody, then if I message them at 8 o'clock in the morning, my time, I'll be well aware that they are fast asleep, their phones are in do not disturb, and they will not see my message until hopefully much, much later. And I really like that, because this genuinely gives me utility, which I need, and it makes my life much easier and, of course, prettier.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really, I think it's incredible how much is available in that app, and particularly with the timed widgets. I mean, you can go all out at that point to add on all sorts of things. You talked about your work setup and your home setup. You've got your day phone and your night phone. Each of those can have different widgets based on what you want, and adding photos to your home screen, so it almost becomes like the old school, what was it, dashboard on the Mac? Yeah, just all of that is so nice, and just that customization that's available there, and underscore David Smith, the developer of the app, continues to iterate and improve and update as folks have more suggestions or requests and bug fixes and all that kind of stuff. The app gets updated pretty regularly, so it's kind of incredible what all you can do with Widgetsmith. And then there are lots of other apps that the developer has created that also offer so much customization. So it's pretty cool if you want to go around and tool things in exactly as you want them. Then you can do that using Widgetsmith. All righty, folks, we are going to take a quick break before we come back with my widget picks. I'm excited to say that this episode of iOS Today is brought to you by our old pals at Raycon. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm always looking at some screen somewhere. And now, obviously more than ever, whether you're an avid news watcher or in serious need of a distraction, unplugging yourself, it's easier said than done. One of my favorite ways to rest my eyes and still get the content I'm looking forward to is by putting in some wireless earbuds, in this case, Raycon's wireless earbuds, and listening to a podcast or an audiobook. Especially for me, audiobooks are a big thing. So whether you're catching up on your favorite podcasts, you're powering through your workout with a pumped up playlist, a pair of Raycons in your ears can make all the difference. Truly, there's no more dangling wires or stems that are going to get in your way. Raycons come in a range of stylish colorways, but always with a comfortable in-ear fit for a more discreet look than you might find from other in-ear options. Raycons are built to perform anywhere and anytime with water and sweat-resistant construction and Bluetooth that pairs quickly and seamlessly. And with enough battery life for 6 hours of playtime, you can unplug for a while, which is always nice. The best part, Raycon makes great sound accessible to everyone, with wireless earbuds starting at half the price of other premium audio brands. So I've got a pair of Raycons here that we can unbox so I can show you. So I'll cut into these. undo that label. These ones are the black Raycon Everyday E25 wireless earbuds. The charging case has 24 hours of battery life. You get 6 hours on a single charge. And of course, with a built-in microphone, you can take calls. So I'll pop open the case here. It comes with, your standard instructions and warranty and all that kind of good stuff. And I got to tell you, my favorite thing about Raycons, more than anything else, is the customization, the ability to make them fit exactly as I need them to. So there's a little box here. And when you open that up, you're going to find inside, check this out, 4 different ear tip sizes, plus the ear tips that are on the Raycons themselves, so that you can get the fit that's perfect for you. I think that's incredible. You don't get that with many pairs of wireless earbuds. Of course, you've got your charging cable, and this is fun too. Look at how tiny it is, this little tiny egg. Inside here are both of your Raycons, so this is easily pocketable, or toss it into a bag or something like that, and it's not going to take up a bunch of space. And then here are the Raycons themselves. Looks like they have a little bit of a charge so that you could get started if you wanted to right away. I pop one of these out, and this tiny little bean goes in your ear, and you're ready to listen. I mean, these are so discreet, so easy to tuck away with no problem. They're the little charging pins inside of the case you can see there that lets you pop those in, they magnet in, and then they charge up. Pop that down, and I can plug it in to charge whenever it's time. But yes, with the easy Bluetooth pairing, and again, that customized fit, I think that's so big. That's so important. That's one of my favorite things that Raycon offers. Raycon is offering a 15% off deal for all of its products for listeners that are tuning in now. And here's what you do to get that deal. You go to buyraycon.com/iOS. That's it. It's Raycon.com/iOS. You'll get 15% off your entire Raycon order. So feel free to grab a pair and a spare if you want to. It's 15% off the entire order, not just one pair of Raycons. And that's 15% off at buyraycon.com/iOS. BUYRAYCON.com/iOS. Thanks so much to Raycon for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today and for making some great custom fit in-ear wireless earbuds that are it's so nice how the package is so small. You can tuck them away with no problem. We do appreciate you, Raycon. All righty, let me get that tucked away, and I can tell you about the widgets of mine. So up first is, I think, probably my favorite app on iOS in general. And then secondly, my favorite widget for sure, because I use it all the time. And that is Fantastical. I would be nowhere with, I'm only here on this show at this moment because Fantastical reminded me that I had iOS Today to record today. That's not entirely true, but the point is I live and die by my calendar. I would not, know what was going on if I didn't have my calendar. And so very clearly on my home screen, my Fantastical widget is the first thing that you see right now that I see. Fantastical launched with a set of widgets and then improved upon them. And now I think it's just absolutely perfect. So I'll talk about the way that this widget looks right now for those who are listening, especially. On the left, I've got the entire month. So I can see, today is the 19th, highlighted in blue there. I can see that it's a Friday, but also, if someone messages me and says, can we have a meeting on the 22nd, I know that that's a Tuesday. And then if you can, I don't know if you can quite see, but on the screen, on the calendar, there are these different shades of yellow. And so it goes from like a light yellow all the way to kind of a dark orange. And I think it goes even to red as it gets more intense. But the intensity of the color is in reference to how many events you have on that day. Fantastical calls this a heat map. So I can quickly glance and see, oh, on Tuesday, March 2nd, that was a pretty busy day. And yesterday, for example, was a very busy day. And the next week on Thursday and Friday, I also have pretty busy days in comparison to my other days. So it's just a quick and easy way to see if someone's, hey, I'd like to get together on this day, or I want to set up a meeting for this day. And I go, I can just quickly see, the 9th and the 10th would be good, but the 11th and 12th, not so great. On the right side, it has my actual kind of events for the day. And there are little dots corresponding to the color of the calendar from which those events are pulled. So mine is actually showing a repeat because I've got two different calendars, my work calendar and then my personal calendar, that are both showing events for iOS today. Now, the cool thing about Fantastical is that it is smart enough to merge events. If it thinks that one event and another event are the same thing, then it can actually put those together. But there are some rules around it that, titles have to be pretty similar and other stuff like that. And so that's why it's not merging there. But you will find that you can set up, you can have an event across different calendars, and oftentimes it will merge for you. And then if you subscribe, you can also get weather information. So in the top right, I can see the high and low for the day, plus a forecast, a quick little icon that shows the weather forecast, which is cloudy. In the bottom right corner of this widget is the plus icon. And as Rosemary was showing you with WaterMinder, this is a little shortcut that lets you say, I want to add an event to my calendar. So I could quickly tap that. It would launch Fantastical and let me add an event. But I'm going to tap and hold on Fantastical and choose Edit Fantastical so I can show you some of the features that are here. First of all, you can change the appearance of the icon. So as Rosemary was talking about, this one does that, where it will match system dark mode or system light mode. So when the sun sets, this will actually change to a dark mode version. Then the calendar set. So for this, you can have it mirror your app, meaning that whatever calendars you have selected to show in your app for different categories, it will show that on the widget. But I could choose to hide some of those. So on my iPad, for example, I have all of my calendar events shown with the widget, whereas on my iPhone, I just have ones that I've selected specifically. Then you can choose to show only certain events. So I could say only show timed events, meaning if there's an all-day event, I don't really need you to show me that on my widget. I know that by looking at my calendar or something like that, versus showing all events. Or you can also set it to show no events, because you can also have it show your tasks. So Fantastical specifically has a built-in task list that you can use as your kind of to-do list manager, your task list manager. And so you can set it to show all tasks, timed tasks only, or no tasks at all. Showing item indicators is what I was talking about on the left side of the screen, where I have a heat map set up, but you can also choose dots. So it will have little dots showing you the different events that you have in that day. I really like the heat map feature. I think it's brilliant. And then I can choose to toggle on or off showing the weather. And then with the quick action, that's that thing in the bottom right-hand corner, I can actually change that to do add an event, which is how I have it set up. You can choose it to add a task. You can choose it to launch search, or you can just tap none, meaning that it will shut off that plus sign in the bottom right-hand corner. Let me tap in the bottom right of my home screen and tap plus to launch widgets, and I will scroll to Fantastical and show you some of the other options. So you can have a big old whopping icon on your home screen that shows you the date. You can have it show you the date in a different way here. You can just have your calendar on the right with the weather and the date on the left. Just a little calendar itself. Two calendars, so for the current month and the next month. Just your events on the screen. So this is your up next, kind of the events that are coming up or that are currently in progress. And those come in both small sizes and medium sizes. You can just have a big old quick action button to add an event or add a task. Or this one, which is my favorite, this isn't my favorite. This is close to my favorite. The event list is on the right. The date itself is on the left. Just an event list. an event list in medium size, an event list in large size, and then here's my favorite, event list plus calendar. You can also have event list plus calendar, very large, and those are all the options. So my goodness, Fantastical has given everybody an option for what they might need for their widget, and I think it's just fantastic. Fantastical's 14 widgets lets you mix and match your favorites so that you can make sure that you've got everything that you want there. Oh, and then as you can see, if you're watching, one of the things that Fantastical has built in is a join feature, a call, like a join and call feature. And so from the widget, you can quickly join a Zoom call or a Google Hangouts call just by tapping right there on the screen, and it will pop open that link in the right app and let you get right to your call. So I just, the productivity benefits of this app and this widget in particular are just blow away awesome. When Apple first released the new version of iOS that had widgets, Fantastical had not yet released widgets for its app. And so I was kind of upset and impatient ultimately. And I was using just the built-in calendar app because that seemed like the best widget idea for me. And so for a while, I was just using Apple's built-in calendar. And I remember telling Leo, you know, I'm a little bummed that Fantastical hasn't done widgets yet, because now that I'm using iOS's built-in calendar widget, I don't know that I'll need to switch. There won't be a reason for me to switch to using Fantastical's once it's available, because I'll be used to this by now. But then Fantastical came and slapped me in the face with just brilliance of all of these different features that you don't get with the basic calendar app that made me immediately, I don't know, is it eat my shoe, whatever it is. And I immediately was like, okay, I'm switching to Fantastical's widget because it's perfect and I love it. And I've never looked back. So absolutely love that as my widget calendar app of choice. What do you use a calendar widget?
I use the Fantastical widget, and I use the one that's just got the date in large numbers on the left and then my upcoming events on the right. And you joked about only being here today because of Fantastical. Well, at the moment in the UK, we're an hour closer to the US than usual. And so last week when we were prepping for the show, I was sitting on my sofa thinking, oh, the show's in an hour and, you know, I've got things set up and I'm ready. And then I was like, wait, is the show now? Like, are you already on summertime? Because our summertime starts at the end of the month. But I am here today on time because of Fantastical, because I've set the event to US time, to specifically Pacific time. And I love the fact that I can set the time zone for an event. And then whenever that changes, or if I go somewhere else in the world, which used to happen on a regular basis, then the event is still in my calendar at the right time because I've set the event, with a time zone, and Fantastical just works insanely well for me. And that Zoom button, so handy. It sounds really silly, but especially right now, I need that integration.
All the Zooms. Of course, I have to talk about Carrot Weather, which makes already my favorite weather app. And what's funny is it's not the app itself that I love so much. It's Apple Watch complications, and now it's widgets on iOS. Like, those are the reasons why I use Carrot Weather. It's so nice to have a weather app that really digs in and works with the system. And Carrot is one of the first to always implement Apple's new technologies. So I'll show you. I actually have a couple of weather widgets in a stack on my home screen because it's so great. So right now, Carrot shows on the left the current temperature and the current condition. But then on the right here, you can see that it's weather over time. So what the temperature is going to be as the day progresses, and what the weather is going to look like forecast wise. And it says that cloud looks like Saint Werburg resurrecting a goose, because Carrot has some personality. So this is my first widget for Carrot. The second one shows the forecast through 5 days. So I can see currently on Friday, there's a 56% chance for rain, Saturday, 10% chance for rain, and then so on and so forth into next week. Now I'll go ahead and tap and choose Edit Carrot. and you can see what the different options are. So the first thing is background. This is kind of neat. You can change it so that it's set to a specific background color that you want, to the system choice, meaning that it does dark mode at night and light mode during the day, which is a setting that I have set up in the system, or my favorite, which is a background that corresponds to the current condition of the weather outside. So the whole widget itself becomes glanceable, where right now it's just blue because it's sunny. It's sunny, it's a little bit cloudy outside, but that will actually change depending on the current conditions that are outside. Next, layout, where you can change it from automatic to always hourly or always daily. So with it being set to automatic, it gets smart about whether the weather will change a lot over the coming hours, or if things are going to be pretty steady, and then it can just show you forecast over the day. You can toggle on showing precipitation information. You can toggle on showing weather alerts, so that there'll be like a little exclamation point if there's, a tornado watch or something like that. You can set it to show the feels like temperature or the actual temperature. And then in the summary, you can choose to have it like I do now, which is snark, or you can say what I want is for it to tell me the next hour. And so it'll say partly cloudy for the hour, or I'll choose edit again and choose today. And then it will show me clear throughout the day. So I'm going to change that back to snark because snark is fun. And then you can see there are 2 data points here. So I can choose to change that from none to, let's go with humidity. That's always a fun one. And we'll go with pollen, which is a one that's is important for me. So now in the top left to the right of the temperature, it tells me that there's 66% humidity outside, and it currently doesn't have that pollen information. So I'll actually change that second data point to, let us go with air quality. That's a good one, air quality. So for some reason, it's showing not applicable at the moment, but that might be because it needs to pull that information from the app, and it hasn't done that yet. So I think that this is really great, all of the options that are available there. But then I will choose to tap and add edit stat, I need to go back to jiggle mode, hit the plus button, scroll down until I find caret, and then I can show you the different options. So your first option is just a snark option, where it shows you the current weather with a little bit of snarky snark on it. Then the one that I have set up, where on the left side, there's the snark and the weather, and on the right, it shows you your hourly forecast. You can just have it show the forecast with the highs and lows and the current weather. Weather over the course of the day. And then a big one, which shows you weather over the course of the day, weather over the next few days, and current weather. And then a little hourly option, which will actually show you precipitation chance. And as you can see, the weather conditions are listed in kind of a grid with the temperature represented along the y-axis of that grid. And then again, hourly, so on and so forth, daily weather in small and medium sizes, hourly on the left, daily on the right. And then a weather map, which I think is a really neat feature, where you can actually quickly look to see the weather map. And I think I have that one on here. Yes. So I'll tap and hold and choose edit caret, because you can change the style. So map style, I would like that set to system. Zoom level, I want that at the county level. And then show location marker, you can actually turn that on or off. So if you don't really care about where you are specifically in relation to the surroundings, and you can turn that off. And then the layers that I have are radar and weather alerts. You can also choose cloud cover, storm cells, tropical storms, lightning strikes, and fronts. So let me change that to fronts just so you can see how that shifts the map. So currently everything's pretty peachy here in the area. But if things were not peachy, then I would be able to see that quickly. I want to see if I can do. It's not really. I guess cloud cover would probably be one. Yeah, there you go. So now you can see the clouds, how they are in relation to where I am and where the rest of kind of California and the surrounding area is on there. So you can have 2 layers at a time with that feature. So this is just a super, super in detail weather widget that lets you see all sorts of information, again, at a glance, which is so nice. I'll show you the edit options for this one. So again, I have the background set to condition. I'm going to choose condition alt just to see what that does. I can show the feels like temperature. I can choose to show the location. And then the data points that I have are precipitation chance, and I will do UV index for that one. So then I can see Petaluma, currently a waxing crescent for the moon. And then UV index today is at 5 with a 56% chance of rain, high of 63, low of 42. So like, again, look at all of that information you can get right in a stinking widget right there on the home screen of your phone. I think that's so awesome. I love it. I love it so much. That, folks, is Carrot Weather. It's available for free. For these extra widget features like the weather maps and things like that, you will need to subscribe. But I found Carrot to be quite affordable when it comes to what all features it offers, and I think it's I think I pay the annual subscription fee for Carrot Weather. So yeah, you should definitely check out Carrot Weather as a way to add a weather widget to your home screen. That's just fantastic. My last one is a built-in app. So you don't even have to get fancy with this one. It's just right there already as part of the system, and that is the batteries widget. Because if you've got more than one device connected to your iPhone, so for example, I've got my Apple Watch, I've got my iPhone itself, and then regularly I'll have AirPods connected to my iPhone. The batteries widget can show you the current battery level of all of those devices. So right now, in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see that my phone is shown in the top left of that widget, and there's a green lightning bolt showing that it is currently charging. That's because it's plugged in for Ecamm Live. Then on the right is my Apple Watch, which is, say, 97% charged currently and is not currently charging. But if I were to put the Apple Watch onto its charger, that would shift to show the charge feature. As you can see, there are no editing options for this, so it doesn't have any extra features or anything like that. But I love this just as a glanceable way to see the battery level of different devices that are connected to my iPhone. And I use this on the iPad as well because it'll show you the Apple Pencil. It will show you, the iPad itself and any other devices that are connected that support this feature. So not a very in-depth widget, but just the handy way to quickly look at the battery level of different devices is so nice to have that there on my home screen. So yeah, batteries is my last one. And folks, you can get that one for free. Don't even have to pay for it. Rosemary, do you use a weather widget on
we
your
use
phone?
the exact same Carrot weather widget, which is kind of scary. I do predominantly focus on the precipitation chance over here. I live in the UK, and for those people who don't know, it's a small island, which means changeable weather. And in my case, I live fairly close to the coast, which means even more changeable weather. So the question, will it rain, is always answered with yes. It's just a question of when and how much, which fortunately Carrot allows me to sort out. I also love Carrot because it lets me use my NetAtmo weather station, which has a rain gauge or a gauge attached to it. So it actually uses that data when I'm at home, which is just amazing. I freaking love that. So yeah. And also batteries widget, definitely really useful, especially at the end of the day where I'm there going, do I need to put my watch on charge before bed? Yes, I do.
Absolutely. I like that we use the same weather. I wish it rained more here. It does not rain very often here. It's currently the rainy season, and it still hardly rains. But where I'm from, it rains, it snows, it pours, it hails, it tornadoes, it does all the things. And so back when I lived in Missouri, the weather app itself, the Carrot Weather, was very helpful in knowing when the next tornado was going to come and try to take us all down. So yeah, I guess we need like an earthquake widget for California or something. That might be good. And definitely
I'm sure the maker of
widget.
Carrot will work on sending some earthquakes your way if you ask for that. So
That's true.
it's part of the
That's
snarky
true.
feature.
Maybe
It claims to control the weather. Let's not anger the Carrot.
I'm sorry, Carrot. Let us take a quick break so I can tell you about another awesome product. This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by SanDisk. At some point or another, I think we've all had to email or Dropbox or send or post or something, a photo from one device to another, and it can be so annoying. But with SanDisk's data storage solutions, there's a solution. Huh? Get it? Get it? Their iXpand Flash Drive Lux is a 2-in-1 flash drive for your iPhone and USB Type-C devices that makes it easy to transfer and back up files on your phone. I've got one here, and this thing is super cool because, as you can see, if I take off this little cap, I've got my USB-C port here, but check this out. I take that and I flip it, and there's a lightning connector. Let's see if it'll refocus on, well, maybe. There's a lightning connector on the other side. So I can plug this into my iPhone, and it can start to automatically back up my photos, contacts, etc. And then I just flip it around and I plug it into my MacBook Pro or some other device that has USB-C, and I can transfer those files, photos, etc. to that device so easily. With the iXpand Flash Drive Lux, all you have to do is plug in the drive to start freeing up space. There's no internet needed, which is really nice. You can choose from 64, 128, or 256 gigabyte options depending on your storage needs. Once it's plugged in, it automatically backs up your info, and you can even password protect your files. You're then free to move content to your computer or other device. I have talked before about this. I think one of the most important things, one of the best use cases of this is like, get one of these for anybody who's ever complained about not having enough space on their phones. So, you know, you've got one of your family members who's like, I'm running out of space and I don't know what to do. All you do is you get one of these, you plug it into the phone, and SanDisk's system will take the full resolution photos that are stored in the iCloud photo library, download them to this, and then from there, they can be removed from the phone without ever having to get rid of the photos. Now they're suddenly on this device. You can take it and plug it into a device that has more storage space, back those up there, and then suddenly you've cleared up space on your phone. That's so nice all on its own, but we can take things even farther because, folks, it is important to have a local copy of your data. It is so important because there may come a time where you, for some reason, are unable to access the photos that you've got stored online. Maybe you forget your password and you've got everything set up to be encrypted, and you can't get to it. To lose all of that information is it's heartbreaking in some cases, and so. Something like this where you've got a local copy, I think, is really quite nice. But again, just the ease of use of just popping this in, watching that app launch and start to back up all of my photos and everything else. And then I've got it stored here. I can plug it in wherever I need to, and it's good to go. You need to try this 2-in-1 drive from SanDisk. And right now, you can get 15% off your first order of the featured SanDisk products, but only when you go to sandisk.com/iOS. That's sandisk.com/iOS. sandisk.com/iOS. Thanks so much to SanDisk for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today and for backing up my photos. I do appreciate you. All right. It is time to talk about the news. And the first thing is something folks may have heard of by this point, but something we have not yet been able to talk about on the show. And that is Apple's choice to discontinue the original HomePod in favor of the HomePod Mini. Yes, folks, the HomePod is no more, except that it is more if you go and buy one from Best Buy or somewhere else. It's while supplies last. That is the only remaining stock of the HomePod, which Apple is kicking to the side for the HomePod Mini. Rosemary, I'm curious to hear your thoughts because Matthew Castanelli and I talked about this a little bit yesterday on Smart Tech Today. And we had different thoughts about it. And I would love to hear what you think about Apple getting rid of the HomePod.
Well, I'm sad basically because I have two regular sized HomePods, and I bought them when I was living in Austria. And the HomePod and now the HomePod Mini are not available in Austria, not officially, but somehow I managed to get them. Like they were returns to a local store. And I've just noticed in the Apple Store app here on my iPhone, if I scroll down where it did say HomePod, now it just says HomePod Mini. And until yesterday, it actually was saying HomePod. So it's taken them a little while to update that. I'm sad because I think the big HomePod is much better than the HomePod Mini. However, it was clearly a high price tag that a lot of people just weren't willing to pay. It was pretty much permanently on sale through third-party retailers like Costco, Best Buy, and other places like that. And that was the only time that I would recommend that people bought them, just because it was very pricey. But if you compare even one HomePod to a stereo pair of HomePod Minis, the sound is much better. But the thing is what are Apple really targeting here? Are they targeting the smart speaker market? In which case, does Siri have the smarts to do that? Or are they targeting the music side of things where people want a great audio experience? And I think the HomePod, the original one, was targeting the audio side of things more, but a lot of audiophiles aren't happy with AirPlay, Bluetooth playback, Wi-Fi playback, things like that. They want line in. So that they can play it through their digital amps, and that's fair enough. But the HomePod doesn't have any physical connectors apart from power. I think it's really sad that they didn't update it. If they'd updated it when they updated when they released the HomePod Mini and added Thread capabilities to the HomePod, I think they'd have sold a lot more HomePods. But I've seen people buying it and threads on Twitter recently where people have bought the most recent HomePod, and it was a first edition run manufacturing. Like the white plastic wrapped around the plug had degraded to the point where there's white dust on a black plug. So clearly this stock has not been shifting, which is a real shame because I'm going to miss it. And I am currently on the lookout on eBay actually for a second HomePod so that I can have a stereo pair of HomePods and one HomePod here in my office because I love that audio experience. But I'm hoping that this means that Apple is going to come up with something. A friend and I were chatting recently about the idea of a Apple soundbar, which is also an Apple TV. I know for a lot of people, they've got they've got huge houses and they would not like a soundbar. This is my prediction.
Oh my God! I'm sorry to interrupt.
I live in the UK. My house is tiny, so a soundbar works perfectly for me. And I would love it if it had an Apple TV built in. I'd have to run it through my Philips Hue HDMI sync box because I'm messing with that to try and get the funky ambient lighting that matches my screen. But that would be amazing, and especially if they also then offer an Apple TV stick for the people who have proper home theater setups with 5.1 surround sound and all of that, because those are amazing if you've got the space for it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I think Apple needs a lot more AirPlay speakers out there. That is clear. And companies like Sonos and so on are coming up with them, but they're not cheap and they don't have Siri built in. And I want Siri as a voice assistant everywhere. And I don't necessarily want to be reliant on my Apple Watch, which sometimes just isn't on my wrist. If I'm in the shower or whatever, then I don't shower with my Apple Watch. I'm not that kind of person, but if I want to change tracks, I need to be able to do that somehow. So let's see. Maybe they'll come out with a new version of kind of the Airport Express, which is just for AirPlay, where people can plug it into these amazing sound systems that they've got. Don't know. Let's see.
Chromecast audio.
So, the Echo Flex. I would like something like that, but with HomePod technology built in.
You and I, again, running on the same track. I've been saying, I think the first time I got to talk about this would have been Wednesday on Clockwise. And during that podcast, I was talking about how I want to see a an Apple TV. Maybe it was one. I can't remember, but there was at some point I was talking about Apple TV that is a sound bar that also just has an Apple TV built in. Someone emailed me recently to talk about the JBL, which they make, and I've actually used it. They make a sound bar that has a Google Chromecast television system built into it. And so it is a sound bar, but it is also a Chromecast TV. And so you can use it just like that. And it works fine. Like, well, there were some problems with the sound bar. And so I ended up not using it. And that's the thing for me, is that when the HomePod first came out and Apple updated the software so that you could output sound from your Apple TV to the HomePod over AirPlay, I used that a couple of times and I hated it because it would never stick. It wouldn't stay. You'd have to go in and make the settings change, etc. Then they came out with the home theater audio option, which basically says, if the HomePod is in the same room as the Apple TV in your home app and you choose to use the HomePod as the audio system for your Apple TV, then it will stick and you can always use it that way. And after that, I have had no issues with the HomePod at all. It's been a fantastic device, so much so that I took that JBL soundbar and unplugged it because the HomePod sounds so great. And I've only got one. That is my one quibble, my one sadness about the HomePod going away, is that after they introduced home theater audio, I had been thinking at some point I'm going to buy another HomePod so that I can do the stereo pair so that it sounds so good to have a HomePod on either side of the TV working as my quote unquote sound bar for my television. And then they canceled it. And I thought, okay, well, that's great. And so I went to Apple's site and they don't sell space gray ones anymore there. And I can't, but I'm not going to have one white one and one space gray one. That's just not okay. So I'm kind of bummed. I don't really want to pay full price for it either. So it's kind of like, I'm probably not going to end up getting one so that I have two. But all of that said, some people are looking at the HomePod and the HomePod Mini and going, but the HomePod sounds so much better than the HomePod Mini. And it's like, yeah, of course it does, because the HomePod was a much more expensive and overly engineered speaker that does sound incredible and does offer spatial audio. The HomePod Mini, take it and compare it to other $99 smart speakers, like I did for Hands on Tech here on the TWiT network, twit.tv/HOT, and you will find out that its audio is superb in comparison to, wrong shoulder, the newest Echo and the newest Nest Audio. The Echo sounds okay. And the Nest Audio sounds okay. And the Echo still doesn't sound good. Amazon's audio has never been good. But both of them try to make up for reduced loudness and reduced fidelity by kind of overdoing it on the bass. And the HomePod Mini just sort of says, you know what? I'm a really stinking small speaker. And so I'm not going to try to lie to you by trying to make things sound louder without sounding good. So it's not as loud as the HomePod. It's not bass rattly like the HomePod can do. But the level of fidelity that you get at the volume level that you get is really good. It sounds good. And so I think that it's unfair to compare the HomePod to the HomePod Mini and say, the HomePod Mini is not as good as a HomePod, because, well, it's not that it's unfair. It's that that's such an obvious thing to sort of critique. But when you look at it in comparison to the other $99 smart speakers on the market, it is, in terms of sound quality, so much better. And in terms of smart home functionality, because of Thread, it is so good. The only place where I feel it still lacks, and this is not just me, babbling the narrative that exists. I don't use Siri for most things to this day because I have been failed too many times by it. And so I continue to not use the HomePod Mini for that. But for what it does else, other than that, to be this excellent little sound device that I have sitting on my in my office, and to be the border router for my Thread network, it does those things very well. And I imagine that there's going to be even more magic that it does whenever we get more magic from the ultra wideband functionality that's built into it. But yes, like you, I too hope that Apple releases a sound bar that's also an Apple TV. I think that would be so incredible. My fingers are crossed.
That would get me to upgrade my sound bar. It's slightly ironic. I have a 10-year-old Samsung TV. It works perfectly. The only thing that's wrong with it doesn't have 4K, and so I've upgraded in the Philips Hue gradient strip for the back. I've got the sync box. I've got a Bose soundbar, which actually works really, really well in my tiny living room here in the UK. So I would upgrade that to a HomePod soundbar in a heartbeat, because then I'd have AirPlay and I could move that HomePod that I've got in the living room into my office and have a HomePod stereo pair right here on my desk.
Whoa,
and then I wouldn't be able to use a pen or a pencil to write anymore, because I'd have that bass just shaking through my desk. Amazing.
Just rattling you away. Well, yes, we will definitely see if Apple is going to announce new stuff. It doesn't seem like we're going to have a March event now.
No, they've been drip feeding bad news every Friday for the last couple of weeks. So probably about 5 minutes after the show finishes airing, because I'm sure Apple is watching us and waiting for us to finish, they will drip feed something else. And let's hope maybe AirTags this time. I'm up for some positive news, Apple. So if you could give us something good this week.
We'll see. But let us go ahead and move on to talk about Apple Maps getting an update to where you will see COVID-19 vaccination locations in the U.S. So in the app, when you launch the Maps app, I'm not going to show it on screen here.
I can show.
I'm okay.
Ready for that. So I've scrolled over to California here, and if I zoom in a little bit so that I have Los Angeles and San Diego, and I tap in the search option, then you've got like fast food, dinner places, petrol stations. I'm from the UK. That would be a gas station for Americans. If you swipe left, there are COVID-19 vaccinations. And if you tap on that, it'll zoom into places and it'll show you where you can get vaccinated for COVID if you're in the US. Unfortunately, if you're in the UK or anywhere else, then this feature is not yet available. But this is amazing, and I'm really hoping this rolls out everywhere else pretty soon, because it would be great for everybody to easily be able to get directions to their nearest vaccination place, so we can get more jabs in arms and hopefully more people with a higher percentage of immunity to COVID.
Sorry, I'm just now thinking about that very famous tweet about going to the dentist office and everyone around you starts saying teeth. I don't know if you've seen that tweet, but I was just thinking about jabs. Yes, jabs and arms all everywhere would be fantastic. I am eagerly awaiting my jab. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Yes.
Let us move on to the next one, which is, I think, a very exciting thing, although I am curious if Apple's implementation is going to be such that so I guess I should say what it is first. Apple is possibly thinking about separating security updates from the rest of its iOS updates. So security updates could come without having to wait for kind of a point release of iOS to fix things. Because there are times where if a security update is super, super necessary, they'll quickly push out an update that's kind of a 0.1.1 release versus just shipping a new release that has new features and stuff like that also has the security updates as part of it. But as Renee Ritchie has pointed out before, it almost seems like Apple makes sure that they've got plenty of the security fixes that they need in place leading up to an emoji update, because folks will update the heck out of their phones for some new emoji. And so I wonder if Apple separates the security updates but doesn't make them incredibly automatic, that it will result in people not installing those security updates as much, because you don't also get fun new emoji whenever you wait for your phone to do the update. What do you think, Rosemary?
I think that Apple, so I've got my iPhone showing here. So for people curious, this is the 14.5 developer beta. Under software updates, the automatic updates, usually that's just a toggle that you can turn on and then your phone automatically installs updates, providing it's on charge at around about 3 a.m. But now there's a second option for security updates. I have a feeling if Apple's going to be smart, that they're going to put security in with the regular update if you haven't got the security update. Simply because, why wouldn't they? I mean, if you allow it to install an update and you've not got a security update, it should just bring you up to that full point release. Where, so say that, for example, you've got 14.3.2 installed, and there were 2 security updates after that, which for whatever reason you haven't installed, but then 14.4 comes and you want new emoji. There are no new emoji in 14.4, but if there were, then it should just install those security updates too, because you kind of need everything to be able to get onto 14.4, because the way code works, you can't just or you probably can just install the emoji, but do Apple want to do that? Do they want to run testing to make sure that people can install feature updates without security updates? I don't think they're going to do that. They're all for security, and they want their customers to be safe. So that means that I think that they'll do it this way, so that if you don't have it installed and you try and install a feature, it'll install those security updates alongside it. And for some people, maybe they know there was a thing over here in the UK for a while, wherever a new big iOS update would come out, like UK bank apps, for whatever reason, would be a week or 2 behind, and they just wouldn't have their app update ready. And so you try and log in on the new operating system, you wouldn't be able to log into your bank on your phone. And in some cases, secure keys are sent through the app, so you wouldn't be able to log into online banking at all. So I could see why, for some people, maybe toggling on just installing security updates would be a good thing. But I wonder at what point Apple will say, the new version of iOS is available for your phone. We're not supporting this one anymore unless we have to. So installing the new version is a security version, basically.
Okay. I love it whenever these developers that are also journalists dig into the code and find these different delicious tidbits about Apple's iOS system and kind of what they're planning on doing next, or maybe doing next.
Me too.
Let us talk about rumors, which suggest that we could see an under-display Touch ID system in the next, or in an upcoming iPhone, I suppose we should say. This is an important kind of topic because, of course, Apple introduced Face ID in order to, well, for multiple reasons, but one of those reasons was so that it could make a full screen phone that didn't have a home button, which was where Touch ID was housed. Of course, a phone like this Google Pixel has the Touch ID sensor. Of course, it's not called that, but has the what am I trying to say? The fingerprint sensor on the back of the device, so that it can be a full screen phone without having that on the back. But point is, Apple's technology switched to Face ID, and then you were able to make those adjustments or unlock the phone without having to use Touch ID. But some people want Touch ID, like Touch ID, and complain about times when Face ID is inconvenient or doesn't work or what have you. And so Apple is rumored to be developing an enhanced under-display Touch ID system. So tell me about this and what makes it enhanced.
I mean, I'm guessing enhanced means that it's actually genuinely going to work and work all the time. Because from what I've read, these under-display Touch ID or fingerprint sensors have just not really worked out super well. They've either just not been very accurate, failing frequently when you try to scan your thumb, or, they just just never seem to really take off. And I know that with everybody wearing face masks, this was more popular in many countries in Asia before, and now it's popular over here. So hopefully more people are going to be aware of the benefits of wearing a face mask. So I'm sure that Apple are looking for something like this. I do wonder why they didn't just take from the iPad Air and put Touch ID into the power button and make case manufacturers modify things to work with that would have been pretty darn cool. But apparently they didn't. I'm looking forward to seeing like the fact that on the front screen of my iPhone, when it's locked, then there would be a little icon where I can place my thumb to scan it. And I know that would help a lot of my relatives. My grandmother, for example, has an iPhone 8 Plus. And she keeps pressing the button instead of just touching the button. And she doesn't quite understand the difference between the two. And I think if it's on the home screen or if it's on the screen of the phone, then that difference will be a lot easier for people to understand, because she frequently uses that feature for her bank and then wonders why the app exits, because of course she pressed the home screen button. So that's why that happened. So explaining that to people has been a bit tricky. So I think if they can get it to work and work reliably, then this is going to be great. I think as well, if it can try to integrate with Face ID to an extent. So, if it partially recognizes the fingerprint, because I don't know if you remember, Mikah, but I know that every so often I pick it up and it would be like, I didn't recognize your thumbprint because my thumb wasn't quite on the Touch ID sensor. Yep. If it could recognize a chunk of it and recognize a chunk of your face, then for those people who don't have an Apple Watch to enable unlocking with the Apple Watch on their iPhone, then that would be great. So let's see what comes.
Absolutely. I look forward to whatever that future might bring, because there are lots of different implementations of this underscreen technology, and I've used some with different Android devices, and some of them work and some of them don't work so great. And it would be nice to have one that just works, which is kind of what Apple is known for creating. So we shall see for sure how this works, and if it ends up coming in the next iPhone or some phone in the future. Ming-Chi Kuo suggests a phone in 2023. Barclays analysts suggest it could come in the next iPhone. So who knows? But I know some people who will jump for joy about having this in their devices, because I like Rene Ritchie's idea of kind of constant authentication using all sorts of biometric information. So, for example, we all walk different ways. All of us have walking gaits that are fairly unique. I can't remember where it lies in the sort of like from fingerprint to face to all the other iris scan to all those different ones, but it is pretty unique. So using heart rate information, using fingerprint information, using face information, et cetera, all of these different things where the phone is constantly just checking in to make sure the device, I should say, because it could be an Apple Watch, whatever, is constantly checking in to see that you are you. And then you never have to type in a password except maybe once a day, So when you wake up in the morning after you take it off of the charger, kind of like with the Apple Watch, then you authenticate. But after that, throughout the whole day, it constantly checks in to go, okay, this is still Mikah who has the device, and I don't need to bother him with a password because I can confirm that it's him, not only because he touched the screen and I read his fingerprint, but also I've looked and seen that it is his face according to what's in the phone. And also he happened to be walking, and so I was able to determine that too. Like 3 different points of authentication, all showing, yeah, this is definitely Mikah. Not only does it get more secure, but it also gets more convenient. And I think that when security and convenience can go the same way, that is where we are truly living in the future. So I'm looking forward to that future. I think that's such a brilliant multi-authentication idea is really smart. All right, it is time to move on to our questions and feedback. And it starts with our new segment, Shortcuts Corner, bum, bum, bum.
Well, the start of Shortcuts Corner is actually some follow-up from last week from our Shortcuts show from Dom, who sent me a message because there was a little bug in what I showed, because what I showed on screen works perfectly on my iPhone and my iPad. To to do a group call with FaceTime using shortcuts. And this was a one action shortcut. However, Dom had a slight problem with it. For whatever reason, it was making him choose. And I realized, of course, I'm running the beta. And it was a little bit misleading because when I tested the shortcut on my spare iPhone, which is not running the beta, it let me add multiple contacts. So I was a little bit confused by that. And then I realized, of course, it's a bug and it's now fixed. So Dom installed the 14.5 public beta on his iPad and was very pleased to report back that he now has a button on his home screen which allows him to group call his family with FaceTime audio or video. And that's the only pop-up that he chooses from when he taps that. And so he was really pleased with that. And I'm really pleased that that worked out for him. So that's the first piece of Shortcuts.
Oh, that's
Corner.
awesome.
Yes. The next part is a question from Frank, who has a question about power loss alerts. So he says, "Hi, Mikah and Rosemary. I look forward to your show each week and the increased focus on shortcuts and what they can do for users." Well, thank you, Frank. We are enjoying that too. I've had an idea for a while, but I've never been able to make it work. And I think a shortcut would be a great way to implement it. When charging the phone overnight, it would be good to be alerted in the event of a power outage or a sudden change in charging status. The full idea includes a way to turn it off by pop-up when you intentionally stop charging the phone. Curious if this is something that is possible. Thank you for your time, Frank. Well, Frank, this is something that you would need to use automations for on your iPhone. But to start with, we need to figure out how to actually trigger the alert, because this is not something that you can easily do with just the automations in Shortcuts. So I'll just pop open the Automations tab here on Shortcuts on my iPhone. And if I tap the plus, I can create a personal automation. And if we scroll down, then we can see Charger, and we can say when the charger is just disconnected. But this leads us to a whole new problem, which is, how do I know that the charger has been disconnected and I intended to do that versus sending a notification? Because if you're asleep, you're not going to be able to say, "No, I didn't mean to take it off charge. Please send me a notification." That doesn't work. So instead, I've had to flip the logic. And I'm just going to leave this enabled because I'm going to pop back to that in a moment. And I've got a badly named shortcut here because I just had to save it quickly. Because the way we need to check for this is with the time, specifically with hours in 24-hour format. And if I format the time right now in 24-hour format, I can see 19. That's because over here it's 1939 or just about 1940, which is 20 to 8 in the evening. And we can use this information because it's fairly easy to check what overnight is. And you'll need to figure out what overnight means for you, Frank. But I'm going to give a shortcut that we can link in the show notes. And it will, and then you can modify it as you need. So to start with, I'm just saying that it's not nighttime. And that's what I'm doing right here with this set variable option. Then I'm grabbing the current date and formatting it just as that 24-hour time and converting it to numbers. And then I'm saying if it's greater than or equal to 10 p.m., which is 22, then I'll set my night variable to yes. Or if it's less than or equal to 7 a.m., then I'll set my night variable to yes. And then I'd say, okay, so if my night variable is true, turn off Do Not Disturb. And this is really important because otherwise you're not going to hear that alarm, are you? And then show a notification. The power supply appears to have been disrupted. So I can't actually demonstrate this because my phone is plugged in for this. And if I unplug it, then I can't show you what's on screen. But what we need to do is this shortcut here. And I've included a comment at the top with what you need to do, Frank, and for anybody else who downloads this, which is create an automation for when your iPhone stops charging and use the action run shortcut to run this shortcut. So I'll pop back into my automations. And you can see here, I've got when my iPhone is disconnected from power. Now, make sure this ask before running toggle is off because otherwise this is not going to run automatically. And then you just need a run shortcut action right here. And then you select a shortcut. And I've got about 700 shortcuts. So I'm just going to search for this one. Most people probably won't have that many. But then that just runs this. And this means that actually you can run this shortcut on multiple devices. So you could have your iPhone and your iPad plugged in, both of them with their own automations, and they both run this shortcut. And if both of those lose it, then both of them should hopefully chime fairly closely in sync to one another and then alert you so that your power appears to have gone out. So hopefully that will solve Frank's problem and will allow him to know when his power was disconnected overnight.
Nice. We love it.
It does mean if you pop your phone on charge during the day and then take it off charge again, then you'll get a notification to say running your shortcut, but then nothing will happen. It's just not going to, say that, your power has been turned off or something. If you plug your phone in the car or whatever, it's just going to ignore that. It's only after 10 p.m. and before 7 a.m.
Roger that. Well, there you go. Thank you, Rosemary Orchard, and thank you for Shortcuts Corner. We're going to take a quick break before we come back with some more feedback and round things out with our app caps. I am here to tell you about Babbel, who are sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. Guten Tag, mein Name ist Sargent. In case you don't speak German, that means good day. My name is Sargent, or it kind of means hello. Guten Tag is kind of a hello. And you'll notice that I said mein Name ist Sargent as opposed to mein Name ist Mikah. And that is due to the kind of difference between formal and informal greetings and in conversations that happen in German and in many languages. I learned all of that from Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app. One of, I think many people have this goal every year, and that is to learn a new language. And Babbel makes that process not only super easy, but also kind of addictive because it's so fun and easy with these small little bite-sized lessons that you'll actually use in the real world. You don't feel like you're just kind of sluggishly working through some weird story that makes no sense. I'm looking back at my language learning days. This doesn't work like that. These are real ways to help you learn a language that will be useful to you in these cases. So you can emerge from this global pandemic ready to take on the world and speak the language that you have decided to take on. I chose to learn German because most of my sort of DNA profile, most of my my genetic makeup is based in Germany, and we've got family members who have lived in Germany for years and years going back. And in fact, my last name, Sargent, likely corresponds to a group of folks who were protectors of the king. They weren't quite knights, but right underneath knights was where Sargent is supposed to have come from. So all very fascinating stuff there. And I think German is such an interesting language on the whole. Then that's why I chose to pick that one up. Babbel's 15-minute lessons make it the perfect way to learn a new language on the go. Unlike the infamous language classes you took in high school, those ones I was referencing, Babbel designs its courses with practical, real-world conversations in mind, things you'll use in everyday life. Beginners start with typical greetings like, hello, how are you? And build up to practical dialogues such as, how can I book a single room? Other language learning apps use AI for their lesson plans, but Babbel lessons were created by over 100 language experts. Their teaching method has been scientifically proven to be effective, and you can choose from 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and, like I did, German. Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology helps you to improve your pronunciation and your accent. Yes, that's right. I can launch that and speak, and it will actually give me feedback on whether my accent is accurate. You can start your new language learning journey today with Babbel. Right now, when you purchase a 3-month Babbel subscription, you'll get an additional 3 months for free. That's 6 months for the price of 3. Just so incredible. Just go to Babbel.com and use promo code iOS today. That's BABBEL.com. Code iOS today for an extra 3 months free. Babbel, language for life. Thanks so much to Babbel for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. All right, Rosemary, what is the first bit of feedback or questions rather for us?
Well, the first bit of regular feedback comes from Brian, and Brian says, Hey guys, I'm wanting to film YouTube videos with my iPad Pro, something similar to what you do, helping people with their iOS devices and tips and tricks. Well, editorial comment, good luck with that, Brian. That sounds great, and I really hope it succeeds. So Brian says, I know you use very expensive cameras and lights. My videos are on a much smaller scale. I notice your interviews and remote recordings still look great. Do you have any tips and some budget-conscious equipment I could use to make sure my videos are good to great quality? Well, I certainly do have some recommendations because I am actually using my studio lighting, my fancy studio lighting here. So behind me, I've got some Philips Hue lights, but on my desk, I just have some super cheap, I think they were $10 each, IKEA lights that plug in via USB. So they're really, really cheap to run. And if I turn one of them around, then you can see that side of my face gets a lot darker. And if I turn it back, then my face gets a lot brighter. So just some good LED lights to start with is definitely going to be your friend. But the next question to the actual equipment, a lot of what we use here is done with Ecamm Live. And Ecamm Live is great software, but it is a subscription and it's not the cheapest. So if you're trying to do something live, then Ecamm Live is going to be a great way to do that. And you're going to need to go via a Mac or a Windows machine to do that, where you can switch between your different scenes to show an iPhone or an iPad or whatever. And you can add frames and so on top of those. You can have your floating head bubbles like we do on our iPads when we've got a show with iPad content, or just whatever. Of course, there are other options, and one that I would actually recommend, especially if you are going to be using a Mac or a Windows machine to put this together, is Zoom. And it sounds really silly. Why would I recommend Zoom? Zoom is for meetings, but Zoom has a built-in recording feature. It can record audio and video separately, and it does allow you to display your iPhone and your iPad on screen, and you can select to do those. I would recommend sharing your device via a cable if you want to do that. Of course, the other way, if you're happy to do some editing and cutting things together and using something like iMovie, which is a great tool to do this with, there is the built-in on-screen recording, which if I just show my iPhone, I've added this to my control center. So I have a recording button here, and I can't use it right now because I'm currently sharing my screen. But I can actually just record the screen of my iPhone, and then I can share that screen recording with my other devices, and then I can cut all of that together to build a video. And so there's a couple of options for you, Brian. I don't know if, Mikah, you've got any other recommendations that you would make?
Yeah. So for actually, a lot of what you said is kind of what I would suggest. Different people have different definitions for budget conscious. And so it's hard to know kind of what you mean, because if we're talking, the folks that make YouTube videos for a living, they're spending, $1,000 on one light. And I can get, a good light for $100, say, which is far less than $1,000. But for some people, $100 is a lot of money for a light, especially if you're just starting out and you're kind of trying this. And so, yeah, I agree with you that LED lighting is one of the best things that you can get. You should try to get a cooler light, or if you can, both a cool light and a warm light would be even more ideal. So if you're wondering what that means, cool versus warm, color temperature is to what I'm referring. And so you would have, if you go to any kind of hardware store, department store, or what have you, and you go to the LED lighting section, you'll find some that say cool, you'll find some that say direct sunlight, you'll find some that say soft white, but they might also have 5,000K versus 2,700K. And so having a cool light and a warm light is helpful to kind of balance out the color in the room. And then as far as cameras go, I'm not using a fancy camera. I was for a while, and it ended up being more of an issue than it was a helpful thing. And so I'm just using a Logitech C920 webcam. It does 1080p video just fine. And right now that's what I'm using to talk to you. My microphone setup is more expensive, but if you get a microphone that you use proper mic technique with it doesn't have to be an incredibly expensive microphone or anything like that. It can be one that, doesn't cost as much. The Blue Yeti is often one that people refer to, and I still think that it's a great microphone because of its versatility. Plus, it's USB, so it's very easy to use and plug in and get started with that. So, yeah, I think that that, along with Ecamm, especially if you're going to be showing stuff on your phone, are very helpful. Or you can also, again, set up your webcam. If you got more than one webcam, you could set up one Logitech C920 as the webcam facing on you, and another one kind of out of frame that is looking at your phone and iPad. And so you could switch between those two using Ecamm to show what's going on there, or using a different application to kind of switch between the webcams. So, or just record them separately and then edit it together afterwards. So there's lots of different stuff, lots of different options you can take, but it really does start with, for video, it starts with lighting more than anything else. Even if you have to get, 6 different of those like clamp-on lights that you can get at a hardware store, and put in some good quality 5000K, I don't mean price, I mean color temperature light bulbs, and just have those plugged in and faced on you from different places, and try to do some sort of diffusion with them. Lighting is very important because even a low quality camera can be improved if you've got enough light in the room for it to kind of see what's going on. And then from there, audio is incredibly important. So I think if you're going to focus your budget on anything, focus your budget on the best microphone that you can afford to get as part of that setup, because even when video is not great, folks will still be okay listening to something and partaking in something that they're watching or they're listening to. But if it's the reverse, if the audio is not good but the video looks incredible, for some reason, human psychology, we don't like that, and so we are more likely to dip if the audio is bad but the video is okay, versus if the video is substandard but the audio is okay. Of course, the best thing you could do is have both be good, but that's not always the case. So, I hope that helps. Lighting and microphone, kind of start there and build out from that.
Mind if I chime in on lighting?
Please do. Yeah.
Like a really cheap solution is to, like, what you want is a big light source. So if you get, one of these large paper lanterns and put in a bulb in there, it makes your light source look really large and gives you nice soft lighting. And they're relatively cheap. So.
Yeah.
A good diffusion.
Yeah, those are
technique.
great.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, no, if Brian wants to make sure that he has high quality video for as much as possible, I definitely use screen recording, either through QuickTime on the Mac to record the iPhone and the iPad, or through the built-in screen recording on the iPhone and the iPad to get that. Because if you're using some movie editing software like iMovie, or if you go up Final Cut Pro, then you can cut to a different video and keep talking over the top. Maybe do a floating head down in the corner so people can still see you. And especially if your webcam's not great, that's a great way, because if it's not great but it's small, people can barely see it, so they're not going to notice its poor quality. And of course, the iPhone and iPad images will be great resolution, so that'll look really good as well.
There you go. All right. Our next question from Brandon. Hello, my name is Brandon, and I own the iPhone 6S model, and currently I'm on the most recent iOS 14.4 version, but I'm experiencing issues with my Photos functionality ever since iOS 14.3. I can't sync iCloud with my Photos app to load my images with higher quality viewability. I also cannot save photos after taking a photo from the iPhone's camera app. I also cannot save pictures from the web and from other people's MMS messages. I'm emailing you to see if you or someone there has heard of this problem before. I currently have an open ticket with Apple support, but they have not solved this issue yet. So if you have an answer to this situation, I'd greatly appreciate the help. Thank you. And Brandon says that they sent this message from outer space. So thank you, Brandon. Ground control to Major Brandon. We will try to answer your question for you. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Rosemary? Because this is one of those that's kind of, I wish that I could talk to this person so that we could have a back and forth.
Yeah, I do too. So I have my iPhone 6S right here, and it's got a black screen for a reason. That's because it's dead. It's an old iPhone that I had running around as a spare device for a while. And the reason why it's dead is because in this case it's out of battery, but it only has 16 gigabytes of storage space. And my first instinct here, Brandon, however you prefer, you refer to yourself as both in the email that I've got, was that you are running out of storage space and that you need to move some things off. But the very, very, very first thing I want to say is please back up your photos that you've got on there right now. Plug your iPhone into a Mac or a Windows machine and copy all of your photos off of there, and do a local backup. Because if you are either out of local storage space on your iPhone, or if you're out of iCloud storage space, then your photos are not going to be backed up. And if it's a case of you're out of iCloud storage space, then the easy answer is to give Apple more money on a regular basis. I think it's $2.99 a month for 200 gigabytes. And then it goes up again from there to 2 terabytes, I believe, is the next plan up. Or is it 1 terabyte? I've forgotten. I'm on the 1 terabyte plan because that gives me 5 HomeKit secure video cameras. But I have a feeling that this is down to being out of storage space, and it's not always super clear that you're out of that. So one way that you can check is inside of the settings application. And if you tap on iCloud at the top and then iCloud, then you can see I've got 2 terabytes of storage space and I've used 152.8 gigabytes. But if this bar is full or nearly full, then that's probably it. If you pop into manage storage, once that loads, you might find out that you've got some backups of some other old devices in there that you could remove, which would free up some storage space and allow you to save more photos to the cloud. But the fact that you can't take photos and you can't save things from MMSs or images on the web very much implies to me that this is not an iCloud issue, but this is a general issue with the iPhone storage on your local device, where it's running out of space and it just can't save anything. So there are some options that you can do. You can automatically free up space and things like that. But at the end of the day, you may find that the best solution is to look to upgrade to another device with more storage space. Now, don't forget the Apple Refurb Store has iPhones. They don't have the latest iPhone 12. Yet, but they do have the older iPhones available, and that could be a great way to get an upgraded device at an affordable price. Or, as per today's sponsor, SanDisk, you could move all of your photos off of there if that's what's taking up the most space. Mm-hmm. But you may find that it's just other things on your iPhone that are taking up all that storage space. As you can see here, I've got 90 gigabytes of music and 41 gigabytes of podcasts. That is a lot of storage space that's been taken up just by audio media right here. So I would recommend having a look, digging around and seeing if you can get rid of some of that stuff. Definitely back up your iPhone though, because this is, this may end badly, and I would hate for you to lose everything as well as that.
I think you put it perfectly well, Rosemary. We might have to figure out some way to, in the future, do a kind of have a conversation with a listener or something like that, because there are times where we have to reach out and say, hey, if you could send us more information, then we'd be able to help you. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to ponder that a little bit to see if that's something that we could do. A little Ask the Tech Guy segment of iOS today. But I think that you kind of perfectly answered the way that I would have as well. Without anything else, that was my early thought, is that it's got to be a storage issue. So yeah, you might check out, as Rosemary pointed out, the SanDisk device, sandisk.com/iOS, and see if that can help remove some stuff. Or as you also suggest, and regardless of anything, do back up your phone. Do it. Oh yes, do it. And then,
not an optional step. Everybody should just back up their devices. Everybody, please, because you do not want to lose content, especially if you've got photos on there. I've got photos of my grandparents on here from the 1950s. Just back it all up.
Yeah. So, Brandon, when you get the time, when you float back around to the computer terminal, then if you could let us know if you go into, did you already mention this part? I might have missed that, but settings, general, iPhone storage. Yeah. Send us that. Yeah. And that way we can help you figure out if that's what's going on, because it could be something else. And if it is something else, that's kind of exciting because it's something I've never heard of before. So it could be a problem that we don't know about. Yeah, that'll take care of that, which means it's time for our app caps.
Oh my gosh.
Pumpkin pie, my oh my.
I thought you were chocolate cheesecake with a little bit of whipped cream on top.
Pumpkin pie, hands down. I mean, you can think of it as chocolate cheesecake, but I love pumpkin pie so much. This is definitely pumpkin pie for me.
I confess I've never had pumpkin pie. So I apologize to all Americans out there, but I've never had pumpkin pie before. But I do love a good chocolate cheesecake.
Wow. My heart. Folks, this is our App Caps segment, the part of the show where we wear silly hats on our heads to honor our app picks of the week. These are new apps we found that we want to share with you, or apps we've been using for ages that we think you should know about. Rosemary Orchard, what is your app pick of the week? And also, describe your app cap.
Well, my app cap is it's actually a fuchsia glittery cowboy hat, which will therefore have to go very carefully back in its sealed plastic bag after the show so that my entire house and life are not covered with glitter. Despite spraying this with hairspray, it does unfortunately shed, which is why I'm wearing the cords wrong. But anyway. So the app for my app cap this week is a new app. It's $1.99 in the App Store, one-time purchase, and it's called SensorKit. Smart Home Widgets. So if I pop open my iPhone here, I've got a screen with 6 widgets on it. And these are the small widget sizes. And this is data from this very room that I'm sitting in. So I've got things like the light level where the light sensor currently is. I had to move it to simulate the screenshot. I've got the status of my window, which is closed. I've got my thermostat and the temperature in here. I've got a motion sensor for my office and, little bonus, motion sensor for my chair, because sometimes I've noticed HomeKit does not necessarily notice that I'm moving because I'm moving just little bits, but a tiny little sensor on my chair that checks for vibrations will know that I'm here, and I use that. So I don't necessarily use all of these at once. I've set up this home screen because this is what SensorKit is. It is a widget app. And if I tap on any one of these, then you can see all of the different kinds of sensors that SensorKit supports. So it supports air quality sensors, carbon dioxide, contact sensors, that's my window, humidity, leak sensors, light sensors, motion, occupancy, security systems, temperature sensors, and thermostats. And so if I tap and hold on one of these, my light level, and edit my widget, then I can tap on the sensor and you can see I have quite a few sensors in my home. I'm just going to scroll down and select my living room carbon dioxide level. Now, it's just my cat in there at the moment, but it has been shut off for most of the day, the room, not the cat. The levels aren't too great there, but I can tap on this. And when I tap on this, you'll see the time in the top right of each of these widgets updates automatically. And it gets the information at the last time that the app was opened. And because your iPhone will update this based on app usage, SensorKit has a little built-in trick because the app itself doesn't actually do anything. It just reads your HomeKit data. So it can, I've got some extra notifications there. I'll just get rid of those. And it does send you notifications from time to time to say, hey, please open the app briefly to allow all of your widgets to synchronize. And it will do that if it notices that you haven't opened it in a while. And I find this is just a great way of keeping an eye on my house of some different things. So I've added some of these to stacks on my home screen, just so that as I'm swiping through, I can see, the front door is not locked at the moment. So I should make sure I lock that before I go to bed and things like that, which is just really, really useful. And I love this. It's a very simple app. And of course, it does have, tapping the wrong button, dark mode support built in, where if I switch over to dark mode, it switches to very dark gray widgets with lighter gray text on top of them. And as you can see, some of these have got color. So if I were to select, I believe if I select my kitchen temperature sensor, that should be lower. No, that's no lower at the moment. My entire house is quite warm because I've been heating it up because I got quite cold earlier today. But it changes the color based on, the value of different sensors. And it's just a great way to keep an eye on, any of your smart home devices that you might have and want to keep an eye on, or sensors specifically, without necessarily needing to open apps and dig around.
Nice. I like that a lot. Again, shortcuts, widgets, all right there. HomeKit. It's all the good stuff. And that you said that's available for $1.99 in the App Store.
Yep. Yep.
So the one I'm going to talk to you about is a new one that I just recently discovered. It's called Signals for HomeKit. It's available for free with a $4.99 in-app purchase that gives you access to some features I'll talk about here in a sec. But Signals is a way to do something that is not super simple in the Home app otherwise, which is to let you, send some sort of signal using your smart lights. So I've got here one of my lights that is typically behind me as part of kind of the background setup, but it's Philips Hue Go, and so it is battery powered, so I can have it in my hand. So here you'll see that when I hit the tile corresponding to this light, which in this case it's Peter. That's because I have 3 of these, so it's Peter, Paul, and Mary. I tap on Peter and watch what happens to this light. So you can see that it's getting dimmer and then getting brighter again. The idea here is that you can set up signals for these lights. So with the basic app functionality, I can tap on any of the lights that feature sort of brightness options. So I've got one in the background called Paul, and that just force quit the app for some reason. I wonder why. Paul's back there. Okay. That's the first problem I've ever run into with this, which is kind of troubling. But the idea here is that you could have this set up for any number of things. So you could say, hey, kids, when you see the lights flash, that means it's time for dinner. Or you can set it up with automations to give you a notification when the door opens downstairs, or I don't know, when someone starts owning you on Twitter, when someone sends you a meme on Twitter, that you could get a notification. But if you pay the $4.99 in-app purchase, then you get a lot more features, including setting up custom signals. So I created one just a second ago called Go, Go, Go. And what this does is it turns the light green and then makes it pulse. And then afterwards, it turns back to the original color. So very quickly, actually over the course of 3.5 seconds, it pulses. And there are different options for the types of pulsing. So I can choose the flash effect, which was that I just showed you. So I can make it flash for 5 seconds instead of 3. Or I can decrease the time, of course. Then a pulse effect, which we'll do, over 5 as well. And let's change the color just for fun to red. And then we run that effect. And the pulse is more subtle. It's like a bump, 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 almost like a heartbeat. And then there's hold, which will just turn it to whatever color you have for however long you say. And then at the end, it turns back to the color that you had it set to before. So then you can set up custom signals. So I want to leave that as green and choose 3.5 seconds. I'll tap done, close out of that. And that is called Go, Go, Go. But you can also change it so that, for example, I could have it when it finishes flashing the signal for this one light, it could also make a bunch of different lights turn on or turn off. So maybe you have one that's more of a warning, like, hey, kids, it's time for bed. And so it flashes purple, and then they know that whenever that stops flashing, then all of the lights in their bedroom are going to turn off or something like that. There are lots of different options here. I don't have kids, as you can tell, so I don't know if those are necessarily the best uses of it. But there's no easy way to just make a light flash with HomeKit, and I wish that there was. And so you have to set up complicated shortcuts if you want to make that happen, or use IFTTT, which oftentimes will not, you'll run into issues where it doesn't connect properly and then it doesn't do it. And then, 2 days later, it's suddenly flashing at you and you're like, I wanted you to do that like 3 days ago. What are you doing? So Signals is a way to make that happen without adding a bunch of stuff in between. It's all happening on your local network over HomeKit. And that makes it very zippy and very responsive, which is what you want from an app that's communicating with your home. So yeah, that is Signals for HomeKit. Again, available for free to download, where you can get that basic functionality of just making the thing flash. But to add custom signals and use some of those automation effects, it's $4.99 one-time purchase for that app. All right. I believe that brings us to the end of another episode of iOS Today. Thank you to those of you who tuned in live. If you would like to join the live viewing of the show and also participate in the chat, you go to irc.twit.tv to become part of the chat, and then you go to twit.tv/live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, and that will get you access to the live stream, a quick link to the Twitch live stream, the YouTube live stream, etc. And of course, if you've got questions for us, send those to us. You can use iOS Today at twit.tv. You can send audio, video, or text. Any of those works for us. And if you've got shortcuts suggestions or requests, you want Rosemary to answer your shortcuts questions, those also go to iOS Today at twit.tv, or you can tweet at us with the hashtag #AskIOSToday. All right, Rosemary Orchard, if folks want to follow you online and check out all your great work, where do they go to do that?
The best place to go is to rosemaryorchard.com, where you can find links to all of the things that I do, of course, including a link back to this podcast, and of course, links to me on social media. Mikah, where can people find you?
I am at Mikah Sargent on pretty much all of the social media networks, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUA.coffee, where I've got links to many of the places I exist online. Folks, don't forget to subscribe to the show. That's the best way to listen to it. twit.tv/iOS, where you can subscribe in both audio and video formats across Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, etc. And if you got some time, join the party by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts. There are quite a few people who have done so, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate all of you for tuning in to another episode of iOS Today. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Bonus hat hair for everyone.